Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tryhouse Tells Mysteries of Histories. Today we get inside the mind of Nikola Tesla and find that it's as scary as it is beautiful. So who was this genius inventor? What events forged the man? And why did he die near penniless and alone? Find out all. And of course...
Welcome back, Commander.
This is
Tryhouse Tells
Mysteries.
Fact, fantasy, and history have come together to tease the imagination.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
I am Matthew McKay.
I'm Kevin C. Frederick.
And I'm Jeremy, not funny guy Griffith.
And right now I am in the booth with Kevin C. Frederick, so beautiful. And actually, Jeremy, you are up in San Francisco, right? Usually,
I am.
Yeah, usually he is in Australia, eating a lot of potatoes and mash. And what else do they eat there?
Potatoes and eating lots of kangaroo, bro. Kangaroo bangers.
Today we are talking about Nikola Tesla.
Oh, is that how you say it? Nikolai?
I think it's, I don't know.
No, it's an A.
It's Nikola. That's what I always thought it was.
Nikola. Maybe he was born Nikolai, and then he got to America, and they're like, we're going to take off the I, because you're in America now.
Yeah.
And we're just going to call you Nicola.
They're like...
They probably call him Nick.
No, we're not. We shouldn't rewrite history. That was just me.
Nick Tesla doesn't sound nearly as cool.
Well, his nickname was Nico. I think it was Nico. Niko.
Nico Tesla?
Nico?
I wouldn't fuck with Nico Tesla. That man, that sounds like somebody who could beat you in a boxing fight. Yeah.
Nico.
It's like the freaking guy in Grand Theft Auto. Was it Grand Theft Auto 4? The freaking Eastern European guy?
Oh
yeah, that was 4, yeah.
Dude,
Bellic, Nico Bellic.
Also, how does this relate to mysteries or histories? This guy just sounds really cool to me. Yeah,
Well,
what is the mystery?
The mystery of Tesla is like, how the fuck did he end up being like the most prolific writer, and then also, did I just say prolific writer?
You did. I was like, I didn't read
inventor.
that part.
No, well he did. He was
really
a writer
wrote
as well.
Shakespeare's plays.
Yeah,
Aliens.
was it Lord Bacon? Was it Baron Bacon? I don't know what his name.
Stop talking about bacon. It's too early for that.
God, I'm hungry now. So yeah, this is a guy who died penniless after dine and dashing like every single goddamn hotel in New York City, and he was like the most prolific inventor of that time. His contemporaries were like Albert Einstein, who actually on his 75th birthday wrote a letter congratulating him on his birthday. Albert Einstein did.
Wait.
Albert Einstein wrote a letter on Nikola Tesla's birthday and sent it to him, being like, congratulations on reaching your 75th birthday.
He didn't even have a copper to his name.
Wow.
All right, so hey, Mysteries of Histories, and here we are going to solve the mystery of why Tesla died broke despite his accomplishments. Is it racism? Is it ethnocentrism from America? Or is it aliens? Let's get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, and also, like, how did he become such a prolific inventor? How did his brain work in certain ways that we'll get into that are like kind of like contrary to how most of our brains work? Like, he could imagine things in his head, complete inventions that he was working on. He didn't have anything built. He would just think about them and imagine them and be able to tinker with them in his own imagination until they were perfect. And then once they were perfect, he would go and he would create it.
God, bro, that sounds like my artistic flow for everything we've ever done.
Wow, dude, that's...
Are you comparing yourself to Nikola Tesla or Nikola Tesla?
You know, I mean, I call a tomato, if you know what I'm saying, Kevin.
I don't.
Wow.
I don't know what you're
What does that mean? Also, you guys, I listen just like to I search history podcast and I listen to like the top result one of the episodes. Bro, I was like, if this is the top history podcast, it was so boring. He basically like, okay, here's the mystery, here's the question, and then he just kind of gets into, oh well, was it this or was it this? And then he'll start like listing like the evidence and things like that, but like in the most by rote, emotionless way. And it made me really feel great about us because I feel like ours is so much more fun to listen to than this trash.
Absolutely.
The history side of it, probably not great. Let's get that.
Hey,
let's get that.
dude.
No, we have some good like little things in there that's factually accurate.
I think all the names pronunciations are off. It's
raw. What's
What?
that?
We could do it.
When
We
you're
could
talking
do it.
about,
Huh?
there you go, Kevin.
We could
What were you
get
saying?
somebody. We could like do a guest podcast where we bring somebody in who, like, one of our like listeners that's listened to every podcast and be like, the only reason I listen to you guys is to fact check you and like to see
How bad you guys are.
how bad you guys are with getting these facts correct. And we could do a whole podcast on it and be like, but was it funnier that way?
Yes.
See? In a history
entertainment.
podcast, what do we know about history, man? It's written by the victors. The facts
man.
are literally the least important part. All that matters is the emotionality and the relationships and the humanity in the things these wild people tried and failed or succeeded to do.
Amen, dude.
Jeremy, I thought there was going to be a dick
you.
joke at the end of that.
I know, but that
I was like, that was way too insightful for you. Normally, it's like there's a pop culture reference coming, like a dick
It's
joke.
because all these guys achieve because they're trying to get their dick sweat. Ha, dick, 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 dick.
Okay.
He was considered a genius, well-spoken, charismatic, and a showman. And only after death did he become memorialized.
Yeah.
And it was only
The
after
greatest
like a
showman.
long time. Like, so he had like a magnetic flux, like the unit for magnetic flux density, which I don't ask me what that is. I have no idea.
One of you nerds, please let us know.
That unit
Wait, Matt,
is
what is
called a
that? What
Tesla.
is that? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, dude, I have no idea. It's called a Tesla. So that was named after him. He was also in the Inventors Hall of Fame. There are streets named after him. A car company, which you might have heard about, called Tesla.
He didn't found that?
No, he did not. There are statues erected in his honor, prestigious engineer awards with his name on them. But dude, this guy died alone
Really?
in a hotel room.
That's sad.
Like,
He wasn't
Well,
married?
dude,
Well, not to a human.
what are you saying, Matt?
Are we already getting to aliens?
I don't know, man. We're gonna get into his death a little bit later. But yeah, the dude was fucking nuts. So Nikola Tesla, he was born July 10th, 1856 in a town called Smiljan. And he went by the name Nico, as we talked about. So this town called Smiljan is in modern-day Croatia, but back then it was on the border between Austria-Hungary and I believe Germany. But dude, this guy was a fucking weirdo from the start. Not a weirdo, dude. This guy's really quite awesome. He's kind of like, you know, he is the quintessential mad scientist. Like, he birthed that trope. But when he was a boy, so he was born with this photographic memory. And he said, as I told, like, he could visualize things in his mind, and he could tinker with inventions. And a lot of the times he would have these flashes of light when he would get really excited or terrified. And it would be almost like a holy experience or something that was absolutely terrifying to him. When he'd go in the room, it would just be himself.
Yeah.
So going back to the...
Wow.
Yeah, dude. And his brother also suffered from hallucinations too. God.
Hello.
I'm just, you know. I wanted to make a joke at your expense. We'll let that one go.
But can I say this really awesome quote about Nikola Tesla?
Go for it, Matt.
So this is from My Inventions, one of his articles. So he describes one of these flashes of lights when he almost died when he was a kid. So this is a quote from him. He was apparently swimming and bathing with, quote, friends. And he tried to play like a prank on them, but it went horribly wrong. So this is what he has to say. On one occasion, when about 14 years old, I wanted to scare some of my friends who were bathing with me. My plan was to dive under a long floating structure and slip out quietly at the other end. Swimming and diving came to me as naturally as to duck, and I was confident that I could perform the feat. Accordingly, I plunged into the water and went out of view. I turned around and proceeded rapidly toward the opposite side, thinking that I was safely beyond the structure. I rose to the surface, but to my dismay, I struck a beam. Of course, I quickly dived and forged ahead with rapid strokes until my breath was beginning to give out. Rising for the second time, my head came again in contact with the beam. Now I was becoming desperate. However, summoning all my energy, I made a third frantic attempt, but the result was the same. The torture of suppressed breathing was getting unendurable. My brain was reeling as I felt myself sinking. At that moment, when my situation seemed absolutely hopeless, I experienced one of those flashes of light, and the structure above me appeared before my vision. I either discerned or guessed that there was a little space between the surface of the boards and the boards resting on the beams. And with consciousness nearly gone, I floated up, pressed my mouth close to the planks, and managed to inhale a little air, unfortunately mingled with a spray of water, which nearly choked me. Several times I repeated this procedure, as in a dream, until my heart, which was racing at a terrible rate, quieted down, and I gained composure. After that, I made a number of unsuccessful dives, having completely lost the sense of direction, but finally succeeded in getting out of the trap when my friends had already given up and were fishing for my body. So one of his visions actually saved his life, is what it sounds like.
Bro, it sounds like what Tesla had was freaking OBEs, bro. Those out-of-body experiences, like his consciousness was just like
Jesus came to him.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like floating through all kinds of, he was being channeled, bro. He was just being channeled.
So did that come from aliens or from God?
Or just from him getting lucky and being like, it was meant to be, babies.
Yeah.
You know?
He's like, I believe I can do this. Dude, one of my cousin, he's actively tries to have out-of-body experiences. He told me of one time where he was in sleep paralysis, but if you study, it's a way of you can twist your consciousness out of your body. And he said he was crawling on the floor, and he crawled through his door out into the living room, and he's just his spirit, and his mom was having a conversation about something, and then he his whatever spirit went back into his body. He woke up and he went out in real life. He went out into the room where the same conversation was happening, and then he talked to her after, and he actually had heard real conversation in an out of body experience. And I was like, what the fuck, bro? And I mean, he seemed convinced talking about it. And so maybe Tesla got some of that going on with his inventions. And also, you were talking about his family's mental illness. I was also seeing that they think that by today's standards, Tesla also had OCD. Yeah. And they think that was kind of a big factor in how things played out after the whole war with Edison and why he ended up dying penniless and things like that. But I guess we'll get into that later.
Yeah, the dude really suffered from OCD. He had this obsession with the number 3. He would go on, when he asked for a hotel, this guy loved luxury, and specifically the highest end hotel rooms in New York City. And he would request a room number and a floor that were both divisible by 3 or had 3 in them.
That's so weird.
Yeah, so he was born to a father, his name was Milutin, and he was a Serbian Orthodox priest. And like him, as we said, his father had these very, very strange hallucinations. And he wanted his son to take up his work. He wanted him to also be a priest, because the thing is, back in Serbia, when you're in these small towns, you only had 2 options for a career path, which was being a priest and going into the army. And both of those things Tesla desperately did not want to do. So this is an actual quote about his father's schizophrenia. My father had the odd habit of talking to himself, and would often carry on an animated conversation and in dull and heated arguments, changing the tone of his voice. A casual listener might have sworn that several people were in the room. So I guess
is this before
he sounds fucking crazy.
This is before they had seriously diagnosed a lot of mental illnesses, it sounds like.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, they had no idea. They had no idea what that stuff is.
Yeah.
Damn.
But so his father's a little bit crazy. It's interesting to see what he came from, because he's a genius with an incredible memory and an incredible imagination, and just a knack for inventing. But he also has these hallucinations and severe mental illnesses like that OCD. So seeing that his father has a lot of these same mental disabilities, and then you see his mom, who was Nikola Tesla, and she invented household appliances.
What?
And tinkered away at home, and she had no formal education as well. Yeah. Here's a little quote from Nico, about his mother. Although I must... Oh, sorry. Let me get my accent. Or do you guys want to read this one?
I'm good. I don't know how to do this accent.
Although I must trace my mother's influence, whatever inventiveness I possess, the training she gave me must have been helpful. It comprised all sorts of exercises, as guessing one another's thoughts, discovering the defects of some form or expression, repeating long sentences, or performing mentally extraneous calculations. These daily lessons were intended to strengthen memory and reason, and especially to develop the critical sense, and were undoubtedly very beneficial. My mother descended from one of the oldest families in the country and a line of inventors. I kind of like his mom. She's kind of a badass. But yeah, so Tesla was born with 5 siblings. He had 3 sisters and a younger brother, who we mentioned also suffered from these severe hallucinations. Back in this time period, I guess people were just dying left and right because it is so fucking sad. His brother passed away at the age of 12. And Tesla was there watching it. So here's an excerpt from...
Tesla actually murdered his brother.
No, well, I mean, there is a theory.
Or one of the voices murdered his brother.
Shit.
Someone
Someone needs to make a movie about that.
Damn, bro. Their family sounds heavy. And life back then just sounds heavy.
Yeah, it does.
I'd be an inventor too, bro. I'd be like, fuck this real world shit. I'm gonna work with fucking wires and shit.
Yeah, who wants to be a fucking priest or going to that sounds like horrible. That sounds terrible.
No offense to those that are, in the armed forces or a priest.
Yeah. It's just not for me, I guess.
My values just don't align, but thanks.
I don't want to go and kill people.
No, Dad, don't make me go kill people. No. Please.
So this is an excerpt from Legacy, The Life of Nikola Tesla. And Jeremy, I see you clicking away over there.
Oh,
so
shit.
You want to take this one?
You see it.
I
mean, you
see
hear
it,
it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
No, I can see it in here.
All right, here. Let me get
my.
my audible narrator voice. All right.
Okay.
Dane is now 12, and Nikola is 5. Georgia is preparing a family meal, and today appeared like any other day, but it wasn't. Nikola is watching Dane ride his horse. He is an excellent horseman. Dane's horse rears and throws him to the ground, hitting his head. Nikola comes running and yelling, "Dane! Dane!" And when he reaches him, Dane is not moving. Nikola quickly runs into the house. "Mama, something has happened to Dane." Georgia runs outside with her apron on and leaves everything as it is in the kitchen. A few days later, the family is at the graveside with the other children. Reverend Tesla is speaking. Blah, 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 is what it sounds like. And then they lower Dane into the ground. Everyone is crying and comforting each other. Nikola is trying to hold back his tears. No words are spoken as everyone returns to the house. Dane's death leaves an indelible memory in Nikola, and for many years he tries to get rid of the nightmares.
So it was after this. Yeah, dude, thank you. Thank you for reading that. That was beautiful. I would have listened. I wouldn't play you to go to bed.
Thanks, bro. Thank you. I'm available for chapters, $30 per page.
God damn it.
Little Jim Dale. So this led to his flashes of light. It was after his brother's death. I think like just the trauma of watching his brother die.
Kind of the insanity in him.
So he's like always on his way to die. He almost dies every night.
Yeah. I mean, it really does seem like he had a horrible history with sleep as well. A lot of the time, he would have these like hallucinations before bed, where he would see people that would like come into his vision and they would like stay for a while. And he knew that when the people came into his vision and when he had these hallucinations, he'd be able to get to sleep. But when he didn't have these hallucinations before bed, he knew it would be a sleepless night.
What?
Isn't that fucking...
Because if somebody came into my visions, I wouldn't be able to go to sleep with somebody staring at me. Like, that's the opposite, Tesla.
No, I think I imagine maybe it was one of these people that he really liked, you know?
Yeah, it had to be.
Because I know he had like a bunch of like figment imaginary people that he concocted in his hallucinations.
The fact that like people were just so... They're like, man, do we trust this guy's inventions? You see he's talking to himself, right? Like, I'd be a little skeptical to be using crazy man's inventions.
Yeah, well,
but
I think he got a handle on his like not really on his hallucinations, but like he never really talked to himself. People really described him as just being charismatic and just eccentric. No one ever really. I couldn't find anything that was like he was fucking nuts.
Yeah, and dude, you know what? I talk to myself too. Does that make me crazy? You know what I mean? Like I'll be like washing like the dog's tray downstairs, and like Monica's dad sometimes would walk by, and he would catch me talking to myself, and like he thought I was probably crazy. But I mean, you know, sometimes you just got to work out these ideas, and you got to feel it through your body, you know?
Dude, I am constantly talking to myself, so I'm right there with you. Kevin, do you talk to yourself?
I do when I'm. No, actually, I think to myself.
Well, that's.
I only
feel
talk
like
to myself if like people are watching. You know what I mean?
What?
Like if I'm working on my
You're
car,
trying to entertain somebody.
yeah, I'm narrating kind of what I'm doing, or like the things that I think in my head, I'm just saying them out loud.
Oh, interesting. You do that a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, you do that a lot.
when I'm
So
on
we
set,
feel like
also
we're on a
thinking-
journey with you.
Yeah, and Kevin will also like sing songs a lot of the time by himself when people are around.
I
he's
do that. I do that when nobody's when it's just me too.
Oh, well.
Dude, everybody sings. Not
Yeah.
everybody.
Tangents.
Yeah, well, anyway, so these sparks, these flashes that he would have in his head, that actually led to one of his greatest achievements, which was putting the hydrothermal facility in Niagara Falls. No, sorry, was it hydrothermal or was it hydroelectric? I think it was hydroelectric.
I think
It would have to
hydroelectric.
be
Yeah, because
hydroelectric.
what they did is they dug like massive like tunnels like downward in like the rocks of Niagara Falls, so water would fall down into the holes and like powering all the stuff.
Oh, so the force from the falls would cause.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't know, like it didn't
so instead
specify
of a
this, but like
traditional watermill,
yeah,
it's
but like
Are you sure? Because like when he describes having this vision, he talks about like seeing turbines in the water. That I thought that the water was turning turbines. Is that not how?
I think the
We wanna look this
turbines
up?
might have been like down in the holes. Like so it would like first
So
it would
the
dip
force
into like
of
a
the
big ass
fall
tunnel.
was causing
The turbines to turn.
instead of the flow of a river or something. It's actually the force of the fall.
Yeah, no, that's what it was looking like. Because I mean, one of the things I've seen a lot of, you know, doing the research for this podcast was schematics, man. You know, these guys like to make their motherfucking schematics in their drawings, and like it looked like there was like some kind of machinery, yeah, at the bottom of the whole tunnels. That would be, powered by the running water. Okay, so yeah, that Niagara power plant was built in 1895, and the reason it was so crucial was because it was just after Tesla, with his AC, and with Westinghouse, they had won the contract to do the Chicago World Fair. And so Edison was in a rage. He was so mad that they got it over him. Because, like, and they were saying, you got to imagine at this time, bro, this is a time where motherfuckers are lighting their evenings with fire.
Yeah.
So you go to the World Fair, you see lights, like electric light everywhere. It's like if we went to a place today and we saw like a shit ton of flying cars. We're like, what the fuck? Who made these flying cars? Like, that's basically like what Tesla was able to do at the World Fair back then. And then so that the next project after that was the Niagara plant, which was revolutionary. Because at the time, like Edison's direct current could really only travel electricity accurately up to half a mile, maybe 3/4 of a mile. It would start to peter out.
Yeah.
But with that Niagara facility and with his alternating current, Tesla was able to produce 8 million volts at Niagara Falls, which was astounding at the time. And like a lot of the principles and problems of that, you know, the way he generated electricity are still used today. And it could travel miles and miles and miles. Like, I think this particular plant was redirected all the way to Albany, New York, where it like went other places, like then towards NYC, towards Chicago. So it was like a key step in really like Tesla winning the battle of getting electricity to like every person in the country, you know?
Wow.
That's incredible.
This man.
Yeah, and I
is
guess, and
incredible.
I feel like I should also say, because before that, like Edison had got electricity, but he was only mostly able to power very rich like barons of the time, because he needed to have like a generator like every couple miles to power locally.
because
you know?
because it's DC and it can't
You can't go that
Yeah,
far.
exactly.
apparently.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah,
yeah,
and so he got shit on.
And the thing about this, so he actually had the vision he had of Niagara Falls. He had it. He saw the in like a divine insight. He saw the water like churning away, and then he like went to his uncle and he was like, "Uncle, I'm going to Niagara Falls in America, and I'm going to build a power plant there." And then he fucking did it. Wait,
and did he like Babe Ruth like point this out like years before he was like even an inventor?
Youth. Yeah, before he was even an inventor.
He was like,
I thought he was already in America. No,
this is when he was a kid. No, it was just when he
had the vision as a kid.
Exactly, when he first had that vision that sparked his fascination and almost like an obsession with Niagara Falls. Was when he was a kid.
Okay. So it was just like the timing after the World Fair. He was like, "Now is my time, baby lion. Time to build Niagara Falls Dam."
Baby Serbian lion.
Guy, go forward and shine.
For you listeners that don't know what this shtick is, we all went to acting school together, and one of our instructors is Serbian, and she would call everybody babies. So that's
and lions.
And lions.
Like,
you be fierce like a lion.
Bro, she should have been a motivational speaker. I mean, that's really...
Yeah, for sure.
That's what she's about. She just gasses you up all the time.
So, 7 years after his brother's death, Nikola left his family for a town called Karlovac to live with his aunt and uncle, who also had... His uncle had, like, the coolest fucking name ever. It was Colonel Old Warhorse Brankovic.
What the? What do you mean? That isn't a name.
Well, I mean, it's not his real name. It's in quotations. It's like a nickname, I guess.
But hell, if I could go by a name like that, I would too. Old Warhorse? Yeah. Don't call me Kevin. My name is Old Warhorse, okay? Show some fucking respect. Colonel Old Warhorse.
I'm going to call you that from now on. I hope you realize.
Oh, my God.
So in Karlovac, he studied physics and math in like what is the gymnasium over there, which is pretty much high school. And then but after 3 years, he returned home against his father's wishes. But when he returned home, he had contracted cholera, which is, if you know what cholera is, it's like one of the worst fucking illnesses ever. And he was in the hospital for 9 months, and people thought he was gonna die. So here's an excerpt. Jeremy, you should take this again.
A few days later, his father and a doctor are in the bedroom. He is very weak. The doctor examines him, and his mother is with them. "I don't know what more I can do for him. He appears to be giving up the fight," says the doctor. His father replies sadly, "He has so much to live for. His imagination, his brilliant mind. Medically, I've done all I can. The rest is up to him," says the doctor. Nikola is lying there weak with his eyes half closed and barely speaking. His father tries desperately to rouse him and stir him into a more cheerful mood. In a commanding voice, his father says, "Nikola, you cannot go." Jurka was holding Nikola's hand. "This is going on much too long." There is hardly enough energy in Nikola for an audible whisper. "I could get well if you let me study engineering." His father bends over intently, seizes him and says, "You will be an engineer. Do you hear me? You will go to best technical institute I can find, and you will be great engineer." He pauses. "You must get well. You will be a great engineer. Did I say that already? If that is what you want." A faint smile occurs, and a shine comes into Nikola's eyes. "Thank God! Oh, you heard me, Nikola! You will go to an engineering school and become a great engineer, do you understand me?" There isn't enough energy for Nikola to speak, but the smile becomes a little more definite. His mother looks at Nikola, and her husband sees the faint smile that appears. Exeunt.
It almost makes me feel like he didn't actually have any illness whatsoever.
He's like, "If you would let me do what I want, Papa, I'll live."
Yeah. I guess I could live if I can do my passions. Otherwise, I'll just die.
Yeah, because he got well like right after that.
Just chucking a sickie.
Yeah, he went to a little town up in the mountains, Somingaj, and there he continued his recovery from cholera. But really what he was doing is he was avoiding the army because there's a compulsory service at that time in Serbia.
That's scary.
For 3 years.
I've also heard that town in the mountains, great lentil soup. And
is that true?
Torminaj or whatever it's called. Torminaj.
Huh. That's
Nah, I made that up.
okay.
Mysteries of history. Wiggity woo.
So he had to say this about that time in his life. For most of this term, I roamed in the mountains, loaded with a hunter's outfit and a bundle of books. And this contract with nature made me stronger in body as well as in mind.
Look at that. He's on his Walden shit. His Thoreau inspiration.
Yeah. Dude, the guy talks in length about how he had some sort of awakening when he was like 6 or 8 after reading a book that allowed him to just like think more about his actions and become more introspective, and to he became obsessed with people that really love putting themselves through like really, really tough diets because they want to like prove to themselves that they have the discipline. I'm kind of like one of those people. He was very similar to that. Like he describes it as like he had this moment where he was like, I want to better myself, when he was like fucking 6. Who says that when they're 6? No, I didn't even know what was happening when I was 6.
I can't remember being 6.
I don't even. Well, I know I do. I ran into everything. I got so many scars on my body.
He's done roaming around like a wild man at this point. His father helped him with money and sent Tesla to college at Graz University. I don't know how to say it. Graz University in Austria. And then he achieved the highest grades possible, became fascinated with engineering and electricity while he was there. And during one class, one of Nico's professors was showing the class a Graham dynamo, which was a motor and generator that ran off of direct current. After watching for a while, he pointed out that the pieces called commutators were inefficient and could be done away with. The teacher scolded him and told him Tesla was proposing to make a perpetual motion machine, which was impossible. Ever since then, the idea of an induction motor consumed him. So it was a 4-term course, and he finished it in 3 terms.
Yeah. Well, no. It was a 4-year course. It was a 4-year course. He finished it in 3 years.
Exactly. Then his 2 uncles scraped together enough money to send Nikola to the University of Prague. He wanted desperately to study engineering. He was late when he got there, though, and all the classes he wanted to take were either full or, since Greek and Latin he wasn't able to actually enter school. So
he wasn't a lot of the. So he didn't know Greek and Latin, which I guess was a requirement. Oh no, he didn't know it was. Sorry, I put the wrong thing. He didn't know Greek and he didn't know Czech.
Czech. That's right.
So he couldn't actually take a lot of the classes because he didn't qualify. So he had to freaking do philosophy.
Yeah,
when he wanted to do engineering,
and he had to study philosophy. So he clearly found it mind-numbing because he stopped showing up to class and soon dropped out entirely only after 3 years. And at age 26, one of his uncles arranged for Tesla to work at the Central Telegraph Office in Budapest, which was not. Yeah, and when the poor man, when he actually gets there, it wasn't finished yet. Yeah. It was still under construction. So this man shows up and he's like, okay, and he has to get a job. And where's the?
He became like a drafter for some company.
Yeah, he found another job while he was there, and then once construction was finished, he was named chief electrician for the Central Telegraph Office in Budapest. And in 1882, Tesla's obsession with the induction motor, which we talked about earlier, was only growing. It consumed him so wholly that he suffered a mental breakdown, which sounds like pretty on par with his family.
Yeah.
It was so severe that doctors thought he would die. Jesus. And later that year, while recovering, he went on to walk in. Oh my God! Varos City Park, City Park of Budapest. That was a SpongeBob reference. It had to be. It sounds very SpongeBob. Budapest with his friend Anthony, and in that park, the inner workings of the invention came to him in a spark of inspiration. Tesla stated that he looked up at the sun, and as it set, and began reciting a passage from Faust. As he recited it became...
Fuck you, Tesla.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, God. It came to him as a vision, and he began to draw the blueprints in the sand with a stick.
He's such a showman.
Yeah.
He's
Damn,
like,
look at
and I
him go.
started reciting a passage from Faust.
Yeah.
Which I believe that's like I think it was Faust. That's the guy who sold his soul to the devil to be able
he's
to create the
consumed-
light bulb.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
he sells the soul for, I don't know what it is. It's like power.
Faustus lights the lights.
Yeah, I'm
Whatchamacallit,
thinking
dude?
Faust lights the lights.
No, but I think it is. I think it is rooted in that sentiment though of like talent for the devil or,
Yeah,
or whatever.
he
you know what I
sells
mean?
his soul for
Selling his
talent.
soul.
Oh yeah. So Faust made a pact with the devil at a crossroads, exchanging his soul for unlimited knowledge and worldly pleasures.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
See,
so-
dude, the story Tesla is telling, bro. Tesla was actually the great Farini.
There's a lot of parallels.
there are.
I know. Okay.
Okay, so then in Strasbourg, in 1883, he built the first prototype of the motor, which used alternating current, and it worked. But apparently no one gave a hoot in Europe about his invention, so he moved to America, where people were like, you know what? We could make money off this.
We can make money.
So this would be used in countless electromechanical devices we use today. Yeah, so if you guys don't know, AC current powers pretty much everything.
Yeah. There are a few things that we still use for DC current, but yeah, it's mostly just AC.
Yeah, like most motor vehicles, the battery is actually DC. Yeah, so there's only one
that
part
makes
of your
sense.
car that's AC, and that's the thing that continually charges the battery. So your car actually has DC and AC. DC for like your headlights and everything, and AC charges the battery continuously.
I love how you know this stuff, Kevin.
Well,
That
yeah.
makes me so happy.
Should I just explain AC/DC super quick? Just the difference.
What? Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay, no, just so in essence, it's just so the direct current that Edison had, it basically can only move in one direction at a fixed voltage. And that was the reason why it like petered out so quickly and was so kind of inefficient for larger scale things. And the alternating current that Tesla basically pioneered, it was capable of switching directions. Like you can control which directions it goes at which times, and you can also vary the voltage. So things can be very low, very high, and whatchamacallit, I was actually just learning about this too, where like they had just invented like transformers somewhere in Europe, and like that was a big key in allowing Tesla's alternating current to work, because that way he could basically like with the what was it, the generators he was building? I think the
The
generators
induction
he
motor?
was building. Oh no, or the
The induction
motors?
motor, yeah.
The induction motor? Okay, there we go. Yeah, with the motors, he was able to like send the current out, and like they could make it lower for houses and like higher for industrial things and bigger machinery and stuff like that. And so just with those little differences, he really just figured out the way to basically to take electricity to the masses in a much more in a much better way. And Matt, later on in the notes, do you get into is there an opportunity like talking about Edison's war with him?
Yeah,
or
dude.
would it be
that's like right now. Do you want to go into like the war with? Because like yeah, once he moves, he did a little bit of dealing with Edison, like the Edison company in France for a little bit. So yeah, do you want to like talk about maybe a little bit of that and also like him moving to America?
Yeah, well, let me
and working with.
Let me
Edison?
wrap up the AC DC thing too.
Yeah,
before the tangent. So yeah, DC is also just like a much simpler electrical system. Like
Yeah.
DC is you've got a positive and a negative battery. Like that's DC, and you put it in a device, and then it connects to a positive and a negative, and it powers it. And like you can
Bam.
touch either end of a battery, and like you're fine. And same with like a car battery. You could touch the negative side with your finger and not electrocute yourself.
But if you touch both,
If you touch both sides, you're gonna electrocute yourself. With AC, you can't touch anything. Like if you touch, that's why like your electrical plugs are like they're recessed behind the plate and everything. Because if you were to install that and you touch any part of the electrical system, you're it's going
toast?
Oh, it'll hurt.
You're a
It'll
fillet?
hurt. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend it. It does not feel good. I have electrocuted myself once or twice. Okay, but so Jeremy, take it to the Edison War.
Okay, I'll make it nice and dramatic. Okay, so basically, let's paint the picture of the whole Edison War. Thomas Edison already a super famous inventor using direct current to provide power to the rich-ass barons of American industry. And he'd also already invented, like, the phonograph. He was considered the Wizard of Menlo Park. A genius, but also a very pragmatic businessman, unrivaled sense of adventure. Like, people love to hold him up because he is like, he's almost like a perfect example of American ingenuity. And so his these kind of dealings with Tesla, this Eastern European, kind of paint him in a bad light and show his kind of more negative side, which I think, proud Americans probably wouldn't want it to get too deep into.
Well, to be honest, he did a lot of shitty things, but as far as his treatment of Nikola Tesla, actually, I don't know, because I'm actually it's a little bit more gray, because Tesla, after he worked with him, he went on to freaking start his own lighting company, which was in total clash with Edison's. So it's kind of like all of a sudden this person that was working for you is starting competition of your exact same business. That sucks. And of course you'd hold a grudge from that. You're like, oh great, now you're taking all my ideas and you're just going to go make your own company? Great.
That's kind of messed up.
Edison did to him was really shitty at first because Edison was at the stage, right? He didn't have a way to get power to the masses. And he, like I mentioned before, he needed a power plant every block or two. And the generators were very fragile, very fickle. And it was considered an unsolvable problem. But Tesla showed up at his doorstep as like an employee. And he's like, okay, Tesla, if you can solve this for me, I'll give you a $50,000 bonus. Which is basically like all Amazon is worth today in modern money. But it's a lot of money though. Yeah. So Tesla was driven. So he went out, he took months of painstaking work. He went to all the generators. He fixed this problem for Edison, and he goes back and he's like, hey, I really need that $50,000 now. And then Edison laughs in his face. He's like, oh no, I'm not really going to give you $50,000. You just don't understand the American sense of humor. And
he's a piece of shit. Holy shit.
Yeah, bro. And that's why Tesla left, because he felt so fucked by, that happening with Edison. He's like, whatever, I'm just going to figure this out on my own. And he had his alternating current ideas already. So he went but he didn't leave immediately. He was, there was a time where he was, so Edison was still trying to move forward with his direct current. And he was having cables built under the ground to connect whatever the local area. And Tesla still needed the work at the time, so he's out there digging ditches. But he's also bragging, as he does. He's like, I have a way that's so much more efficient. These cables we're gonna take all this time to build it. They're gonna be outdated by the time we get the cables down. My idea is way more efficient, way cheaper, all this stuff. The supervisor of the digging project heard Tesla, spouting his ideas. Mm-hmm. And says, hey, let me introduce you to some big Wall Street investors, and one thing led to another. Tesla meets George Westinghouse, who, yes, from Westinghouse Electronics, which obviously we still know today. And,
we do?
Yeah, dude,
that's American. It's like, yeah.
Huh.
It's like
they
GE.
make washing machines and shit. Yeah, it's like GE. You'll see a bunch of Westinghouse at Best Buy and stuff.
I will keep my eyes peeled next time.
Yeah, no, bro. Yeah, so they're still around, and he took a chance on Tesla. He initially, Tesla told him the AC idea, and he's like, okay, let me do a small contingent. I'll pay you out this much total. I'll cover legal fees. Tesla's like, no. That deal, it sounds like you don't believe in this. He's like, this is gonna work. You are gonna sell electricity with this. For every horsepower of electricity you sell, I want $2.50. And he agreed to it, and they went out and did it. And of course, it was a big success. It ended up, they powered the World Fair together. Edison was furious, as I mentioned a little bit earlier.
Didn't it do something with a elephant or something?
Well, no, what happened was, right, so this is a little bit the dark side of...
Wait, so Tesla got his business off the ground? Is that where we're at?
Yeah, he got his business off the ground. They powered the World Fair. The electricity worked. It was great for Westinghouse. They ended up doing a Niagara Falls power plant thing. The elephant thing Matt mentioned, Edison was so furious about the success of alternating current and the fact that he's like, I'm the fucking Wizard of Menlo Park, and these assholes are the ones who powered the World Fair. So of course it's like, his ego got very hurt by that. And so he went on a smear campaign trying to show that alternating current was too dangerous and should not be used and should be outlawed, and that his direct current was still the future. And he took it as far as like Edison would have like elephants and other circus animals out in the streets of New York City, and he would electrocute them publicly with alternating current, because he was just trying to show that, oh, this is too much power, and we don't know how to handle it and all these things.
Wasn't he also trying to smear the campaign as well? Wasn't he trying to get the electric chair passed with AC current to also destroy AC's reputation as being like a killer?
Yeah, exactly. He also, what Matt's saying is spot on. Like, Edison also invented the electric chair, but he powered it with AC. And so, like, when it electrocuted the people, it looked so violent and brutal. And it's like, oh. And so, like, he was basically trying to peg AC as the death current. And him using it for an electric chair demonstration, in addition to the animals he would electrocute in the street, was, like, all part of that plan.
Like, he would electrocute the animals to death?
I don't know if the animals would be put to death, but definitely like they were torturing the animals publicly.
He did one elephant who, I guess the elephant had like bit its master because it was a circus animal. And so they were going to execute it. And yeah, he executed it publicly and killed it.
Oh, okay. There we go.
So
See,
it sounds like Edison's plan was like, I'm going to show you how dangerous AC current is. And then it's like, he just showed how powerful it is.
I know.
Yeah, it's like here's
the
what
one doing it.
DC current. Ow, that was uncomfortable. And it's like AC current fucking kills people.
Yeah.
All you're saying is you've got a bitch current, Edison. That's right.
Yeah. Exactly, bro. And I mean, it obviously it didn't work. You know what I mean? Because obviously AC is what is throughout most of the world today. It's the most common.
It can do significant more voltage in a wire.
Yeah, way more voltage, way more distance, way more efficiency and value. And so soon after that success, the Cataract Company hired Westinghouse to build 10 $5,000 horsepower generators for the Atom Station, and the rest is history, And so the historians I was watching, they kind of contextualize it where it seems like Edison kind of bought into his myth a little too much and just could not stand the idea of losing, especially to some Eastern European immigrant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean that's basically in a nutshell that is the saga of Edison versus Tesla and how it turned out. And then obviously like it goes on from there, and obviously just the business savvy Tesla had wasn't really there. His OC kind of crippled him, and which is why he went throughout his life and never really got as much I guess shine or money as Edison would still go on to get. Oh, and real quick before we move on, I was also watching like an Elon Musk interview, and even though obviously it's named Tesla, he was like, oh yeah, I feel like Nikola Tesla probably doesn't get as much shine as he should for a lot of our modern systems. He's like, but I personally, he holds Edison as a bigger hero because Edison was able to get his ideas to the masses and affect a lot of people and all these things. And it's like, yeah, but bro, I feel like that's kind of unfair when you look at one, like the resources that each man had. You know what I mean? And like, because I feel like a lot was there keeping Tesla's ideas on lockdown versus Edison already was so well loved and was able to reach a lot of people. And then obviously also the mental state of Tesla doing what it did to him versus I don't know what Edison's mental health was like, but he obviously had enough confidence and success to actually navigate the world day by day, you know what I mean, to get to where he got to.
And so what happened with Westinghouse and the business that he had with him?
Right after the Niagara Falls thing, it was looking a little dubious just because of the fact that he was actually facing bankruptcy because it was kind of too little too late for what was going on. But I think after that, things picked up in terms of other companies, like seeing how effective Niagara was. I think other companies started like the Cataract Company I mentioned to hire Westinghouse. And there wasn't too much information I could find on, the immediate impact, but just because they're still around today, I'm guessing that, it kind of picked up success after that, and like Westinghouse ended up doing pretty well.
Dang.
Moving on to, in 1887, Tesla met with Alfred S. Brown, director of Western Union. who was gung-ho about the AC system after he demonstrated the egg of Columbus. So Tesla's just going from investor to investor to investor on a lot of projects of his, also to build a laboratory for himself. That was one of his big things. So he ended up like splitting a patent for 50-50 with Alfred S. Brown. He erected a laboratory on 175 Grand Street where he focused on high-frequency apparatuses, wireless transmissions, and theories on the relationship between electromagnetic radiation and light. So he actually built the first patent for long-distance radio transmission.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
In this new lab, he created the first neon and fluorescent lights. So all fluorescent lights, in like your local CVS, that shitty lighting. Thank Tesla for that. He also he took the first X-ray photos, illuminated a vacuum tube wirelessly, beaming the electricity through the air to light it up. This would begin his obsession with wireless transmission of energy, because he had this dream of creating this tower to broadcast electricity through the air, so you'd have like wireless electronics charging in your hand in New York City.
Jesus Christ, that sounds so dangerous.
Yeah, it does.
That actually sounds like something could go terribly wrong.
I mean, 5G is already fucking shit up or something, right?
Really?
I don't know. I mean, apparently 5G, the new 5G, the frequency is disrupting weather instruments to be able to predict the weather. And God, who knows? Also, like, if that shit's good for us to have that much energy beaming through us all the time. Like, that new wireless thing for VR? Yeah, we were talking about it, I think. That wireless thing, I believe it uses 5G as well. I mean, that's strapped to your fucking head.
I'm probably fine with it, to be honest.
5G in your brainwaves.
I've taken Adderall every day for the last 20 years. So,
oh my God.
Well, we don't know the long-term health consequences yet, Kevin. That's why we got to wait long-term.
Yeah.
So at this laboratory, dude, the guy had so much OCD. So in some part in his life, I believe it was his childhood, he developed this extreme aversion to pearls, going into a fit when he saw them. He also could not touch hair. So there's a story that one of his secretaries told about her coming to work one day wearing pearls. And he didn't like pearls so much that he sent her home. He was like, get out. Get out!
You can't sit with us.
You can't sit with us! Kiss me!
So, in 1895, a fire ignited in the basement of his lab. It burned down the entire structure. Wait, so how long did he have the lab? For 8 years? Wait, no. Oh, no. So he didn't even have it for 20 years. He had it for, oh my God. No, wait, he only had it for 6 years? No, I can't math.
8 years. 8 years.
Okay. Take two. So in 1895, 8 years after...
I'm keeping that in.
Shut up. 8 years after they create the lab, it burns to the ground. There's a fire in the basement. All of his inventions, plans, notes, laboratory data, photographs... sorry, I'm so sorry. Books, which were all valued at $50,000, were scoured and disintegrated. He told the New York Times that, I'm in too much grief to talk. What can I say? Ooh.
I mean, all of his research, because, but then again, I don't think
Edison was just like,
he's probably the one that fucking started that fire.
Code, though.
He would have been like, and these are the dangers of AC
on his
current.
Google Drive.
Yeah, dude, this is before Google Drive, man. That's a real motherfucker.
Imagine life before Google Drive. I can't.
Terrible.
I can't.
Well, I mean, mind you, he had Google Drive in his brain.
Yeah, he's like, luckily, I remember all these plans.
Yeah.
We do not
Luckily,
need the plans. In 1900, Tesla traveled to Washington, D.C., where he met with Admiral Bradford about wireless telegraphy. It wasn't long before Tesla began trials on the system. In 1901, Tesla partnered with J.P. Morgan, another
huge company now.
Yeah, a huge U.S. name, signing over 51% of his patents and inventions, which included all future ones for, oh my God, and all future ones for just $150,000.
Just 100. That's like $3 to $4 million nowadays.
Probably more than that, dude.
No, because 50,000 it was like I looked it up. It was like 700,000 in 1940, 1930.
Wow, that's actually not that much money.
But you know what? Maybe
for like a business, like $700,000 for a laboratory.
Oh my God! In other words, $50,000 in 1900 is equivalent in purchasing power of about $1.5 million in 2020.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So yeah, okay. So he actually was getting like a lot more than that, like $5 million.
Yeah, so he was getting several millions of dollars basically just for signing over 51% of his patents and inventions. And Colorado Springs, they set up a test site where they erected an experimental tower. Is this why the Tesla coil? Is this what this is supposed to be? Anyways, strange things began happening around Tesla's transmitter, which I believe is this tower. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So the New York Sun stated all sorts of lightning were flashed from the tall tower and poles, and the air was filled with blinding streaks of electricity, which seemed to shoot off into the darkness on some mysterious errand. Well, the power consumption of the tower must have been so great because the local power companies sued Tesla for electricity used at the experimental lab and tower. What?
Dude, because that was his tower. It was his obsession with beaming electricity. So it was a high voltage, high frequency electricity output. So it would wirelessly transmit electricity. I don't really think it was very successful because he got like a fine, right?
Yeah, he got fined by the company that sued him, and
boo.
Yeah, and so he got fined by the company that sued him for $180, which he paid by tearing down his lab and selling it for lumber. Which I guess the lab was already burnt to the ground, right?
No, different lab.
Different lab?
Different lab. Yeah, the one that burned down was in the city.
Oh my gosh! So why would he? $150? You just signed. You had $150,000. Where did that money go, Tesla?
I don't know. I think he must have just given up on the project.
We haven't talked about how much he gambled either. That was something.
Oh, yeah.
He used to gamble. He's got a history of gambling, even back when he was in school.
Do we want to do a little quote from his gambling times?
Oh, we can.
Yeah. Okay. So this is fucking fascinating because it also talks about like his family life and his mom and how cool his mom was. At a certain age, I contracted a mania. Oh, this is this is my inventions. At a certain age, I contracted a mania for gambling, which greatly worried my parents. To sit down to a game of cards was, for me, the quintessence of pleasure. My father led an exemplary life, and could not excuse the senseless waste of time and money in which I indulged. I had a strong resolve, but my philosophy was bad. I would say to him, I can stop whenever I please, but it is worthwhile to give up that which I would purchase with the joys of paradise. Do people talk like this? Did he really talk like that?
I don't know.
On frequent occasions, he gave vent to his anger and contempt, but my mother was different. She understood the character of men and knew that one's salvation could only be brought about through his own efforts. One afternoon, I remember, when I had lost all my money and was craving for a game, she came to me with a roll of bills and said, "Go enjoy yourself. The sooner you lose all we possess, the better it will be. I know that you will get over it." She was right. I conquered my passion then and there, and only regretted that I had not been 100 times as strong. I not only vanquished, but tore it from my heart, so as not to leave even a trace of desire. Ever since that time, I have been as indifferent to any form of gambling as to picking teeth. During another period, I smoked excessively, threatening to ruin my health. Then, my will exerted itself, and I not only stopped, but destroyed all inclination. Long ago, I suffered from heart trouble, until I discovered that it was due to the innocent cup of coffee I consumed every morning. I discontinued at once, though I confessed it was not an easy task. In this way, I checked and bridled other habits and passions, and had not only preserved my life, but derived an immense amount of satisfaction from what most men would consider privation and sacrifice. So this is him talking about, I'm talking about like the people that do all those diets, and it's like he got immense satisfaction from what most men would consider privation and sacrifice.
Yeah, he's like, I fucking hate those people.
You're saying
The masochist.
Oh no, just like I go to the gym every morning because it makes me feel like I piss excellence. Man, I'm just jealous. I need to get back to the gym. I'm not even a dad, and I'm fighting off a dad bod. This is bullshit. But yeah, so Tesla had a little bit of a gambling issue, and even he said that he kicked his card habit, but it was said that he was known to still wager on some billiards matches every now and then. But
So he's a fucking liar.
yeah, so I'm not sure. But Tesla wrote a paper called A New System of Alternating Current Motors and Transformers in 1888, which caught the eye of an inventor and industrialist,
Westinghouse,
George Westinghouse, which we went over all that. So the Tesla transmitter tower happened before the Westinghouse stuff?
Yeah.
Oh. Man,
Wow.
he's been through a lot of business ventures that just were like, did not lead. You know what he needed? A business partner.
Yes.
Yeah. He needed
Well, he
somebody
had
with
Westinghouse.
business savvy.
Yeah,
that's
like
true.
it sounds like if Edison and him could have worked together, like they probably
Yeah.
would have been a good combo. Because
Yeah.
I don't know, like Tesla does seem like way too eccentric for to not have like the business savvy to.
Yeah. He's like the Van Gogh of inventing.
Well, I guess his inventions
That's a
also
good
like
analogy.
he was so highly experimental in a lot of his things that it would have been hard, or it would have slowed his progress if he had to market it for the masses. You know.
Yeah, because what he really wanted to do is he just wanted to invent. He wanted to make people's lives easier with technology.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he said, he was like, I don't have any use for money. Like, I want to make things that help people.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So he was a bit of an eccentric, and as any eccentric scientist, he had some very fucking strange eating habits. He washed his hands compulsively because he had OCD and wouldn't touch his food unless it had been boiled. Mind you, he pretty much just stayed in hotel rooms if he wasn't sleeping at his own lab. So he was dining at like the finest restaurants as well. Dude, the guy loved luxury.
So yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So he
Dude, his
refused-
story's not so sad.
It's not. Yeah. I mean, no.
He kind of did it to himself.
He did.
He
did.
enjoyed a quality life, man.
Did he have the money for it all the time? No, he did not.
Doesn't matter, yeah.
But he
But, like-
certainly enjoyed it.
Yeah. Did he get to stay in the places and eat the food? Well, hey, man, a life well lived.
Life well lived. So he refused to shake hands with people at events and wore gloves in public so he didn't have to touch anyone with skin-to-skin contact. He claimed he had these fears because he had looked at water under a microscope and had seen bacteria. He said, "If you would only watch for a few minutes the horrible creatures, you would never again drink a drop of unboiled or unsterilized water." He gave up eating meat later in life, and then at one point he just stopped eating solid foods altogether. So he would drink bowls of warm milk. He also ate brews of veggies. So he was a bit of a narcoleptic. He claimed to have only slept for 2 hours at a time, though he apparently also took like some mini naps to recharge his batteries. He wasn't unaccustomed to working long weeks with very little sleep. One report says he once worked 84 hours without a wink. Neighbors would routinely call the police worried about the famous inventor because of all the strange noises that also went on in his lab throughout the night.
Jesus.
Because I think he
That's
would just
insane, bro.
he would just work long into the night with a Tesla coil zapping and whoosh, whoosh.
That's Kevin's challenge for his next Twitch stream.
Wait, doing what?
You got to work. Wait, how many hours is it here? You got to work 84 hours without stopping playing. Kevin.
Oh fuck yeah, dude!
Oh,
People
no,
would
I'm
tune
okay.
in for that.
The Tesla challenge.
I'm okay. I did a
Also, you
21
guys-
hour once. That was ridiculous.
You did a 21-hour one?
21 and a half, yeah.
Oh my god, that's insane, bro.
So he had a ton of patents. One of which was for a radio transmission, a long distance radio transmission. And in 1898, Tesla showed off this radio wave controlled boat at an electrical exhibit in Madison Square Garden, and he patented several ideas related to this new radio communication. But then a guy named Guglielmo, his last name was Marconi.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce that first name.
Guglielmo.
He he is the one who's pretty much known as the person that sent the first transatlantic radio transmission. So he sent a message in Morse code sent from England to America, but it was on the back of Tesla's science. He directly used his patents. So he pretty much stole his technology.
Well, they feuded for the recognition of it.
Yeah.
And so it's like the U.S. Supreme Court revoked a few of Marconi's patents in 1943. In 1943, so they took that sweet-ass time, and elevated Tesla to the father of radio. So basically, Tesla's the one who invented radio transmission.
Yeah. So I think that's where we're gonna end today's episode. Stay tuned next week for just some of the weird and, I mean, dude, the guy had a love affair with a pigeon.
No, he didn't.
So he fucking did.
If
And
you
we're
guys
gonna
want
get
to
into
hear
that.
about this love affair with a pigeon, you guys tune in next week for Mysteries of Histories. But for now, my name is Kevin Frederick.
Matthew McKay.
And I'm Jeremy. And did Tesla put breadcrumbs on the shaft of his penis? Find out next time.
Oh my God. Clickbait.
I don't know how we follow that up. That's a good one.